Some sports are intrinsically unilateral, and the athletes may develop muscular changes and imbalances and range of motion differences from one side to the other. Some examples of these sports would be volleyball, baseball pitchers, and tennis players whose dominant arm will develop differently than their non-dominant arm. One study done on male athletes in those three sports found scapular positioning changes across all those athletes. They found that the scapulas were more internally rotated and anteriorly tilted. Many athletes across those sports who do have those those scapular positioning differences adapt to the positioning differences and never end up with serious injuries caused by the asymmetrical positioning of their scapulas. But what happens when the asymmetry of the sport extends the entire length of the body? In the case of Olympic canoeists, every stroke, every pull on the water reinforces that asymmetrical pattern of movement. An Olympic canoeist will select whichever side feels most comfortable for them at an early age and canoe on that side of the body throughout their entire career, never paddling on their wrong side. For a left side canoer, their right arm will be constantly held in a cross-flexed and internally rotated position and move from above their shoulder down to about shoulder level as they paddle. Their left arm will be held below shoulder level at the bottom of their paddle and never come higher than shoulder height and pull down and back. This will reinforce the development of their latissimus dorsi muscles differently. Muscles develop strength in the range that they're worked, which means the right side muscles will develop stronger in an overhead position, whereas the left side muscles will develop stronger from shoulder height down. Both sides will be very strong because a lot of paddling comes from pulling down from your shoulders, but they will develop differently. Similarly, the hips are in a very different position. Olympic canoeists stay in a lunge the entire time that they paddle. For a left side paddler, that means their right leg is going to be forward, their hip and knee flexed to 90 degrees. Their left knee is going to be down, weight-bearing, directly below their hip. From that lunge position, with every stroke, they're going to flex forwards and then pull back into extension, back into that lunge position. And most of the force generated or propelling the canoe forwards is going to be generated by their core, their hip flexors, and their hip extensors as they go through that lunging motion. Along with the imbalances at their shoulders and in their hips, they end up with asymmetrical differences in their spine. Since the paddle is always held on the same side of the body, in this case for a left side paddler on the left-hand side, along with the flexion and extension, there will be a large degree of spinal rotation. Every time the paddler pulls, the spine is going to rotate left with a heavy load as they push through the water. This is going to result in compression of the facet joints on the left-hand side and a pulling apart of the joint capsule on the right-hand side. The spinal rotation will also result in stronger multifidus muscles on the left-hand side, as that's the side that's rotating under load. And then the rotation back to their neutral position isn't resisted by the water. Looking at some of the differences in how the two sides of the body work differently to propel the canoe, it's easy to see the potential for injury, as you end up with hypermobility on the right side with the facets, or even joint capsule sprains, compression on the left-hand side, and even disc degeneration or herniation as the spine flexes and rotates under load towards the left, pushing the nucleus of the disc towards the right. However, another aspect of the sport is the range of motion. One study done on Polish junior national athletes looked at the relationship between the asymmetrical range of motion and their speed on the water. They found that across the athletes with a higher degree of asymmetrical range of motion were faster paddlers. The unilateral aspect of the sport is widely recognized within the paddling community, and the strength and conditioning programs reflect that, developing the sides that they need to be strong in order to be good paddlers. But from an athletic therapist's perspective, part of our role is to identify imbalances and correct them in order to avoid injury. But what do you do when the imbalance that is likely to cause injury is also what makes them good at their sport? Looking at their strength and conditioning programs, and again looking at the unilateral exercises, but focusing on the weak side, developing it up to the level of their strong side, so working it as much or more than their strong side is one option. There are even paddling machines designed so that you can paddle on either side, and so like a left side paddler could practice on their right side on a machine, so they didn't have to worry about balancing in a boat on the water on their wrong side, trying to even out the forces on their spine. But another consideration in developing and strengthening their weak side is the range of motion. You don't want that development and the evening out of the forces in their spine to end up restricting the range of motion, the asymmetrical range of motion, that makes them good at what they do. So another component of their conditioning program needs to be flexibility and range of motion training, something that looks at the range of motion that they need to go through in order to be good paddlers. So adding in like a yoga component that involves like core stability, balance, and range of motion, so that you don't lose the adaptation that makes them good paddlers. Next steps in the sports involve educating athletes about the potential for injury in their unilateral sport and making them really aware at a young age about the importance of balancing out their forces but still maintaining that range of motion. We need to teach them about the risks of disc herniation and the problems as their spine can degenerate, because this is the only spine they have. They have to live with it for the rest of their life.